Hey guys, I have the pleasure of having Eric Pratt here, Vice President from Gun Owners of America. Eric, I don't know what your official title is, so I apologize for not knowing exactly that. But I
Okay.
know that, in my opinion, you are the man that I look to be delivering what I feel like is the best two-way voice out there as far as all the organizations involved, and you being the
Thank you.
one at GOA that I think I have the most respect for, and you guys do such a good job of delivering that message. So thank you for joining me, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, it is great to be on with you, Paul. I think this is first time, so it's a real pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words, and look forward to talking about some really important stuff today.
Absolutely. And look, we're going to jump right into it because I think that we have, I don't want to call it a sense of urgency because I know a lot of people always, things are, the house is burning down. We need to run. But I do think this is something that I feel like if we don't address his executive order asking for information that Pam Bondi can act on regarding the ATF, if not enough people respond and don't take this call to action that GOA has asked for, we might lose this opportunity and it may never come up again for 4 years. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely think that not even 4 years. I think we're looking at a window of 2 years, even a year and a half, because obviously we have midterm elections in 2 years. And historically, not every time, but historically, typically, the party that is in power in the White House loses seats in that midterm. So it could be the third and fourth years. We've lost opportunity to pass concealed carry reciprocity, get reform on Hearing Protection Act, and do a lot of these things even that he can do unilaterally. I guess actually the things he can do unilaterally, he can do at any time. And that's what makes this executive order actually so exciting.
Right.
He issued it in February, gave his attorney general 30 days. So that now ripens on Sunday, March 9th. So who knows, she might give the report on Monday or at some point next week. But anyway, she needs to give a report on here are our suggestions for what the president can do unilaterally without the help of Congress.
And this, interestingly, this really got me, as far as got my interest, goes back to Biden's administration. So
Yes.
it's like we're not going to undo all the unconstitutional stuff, just Joe Biden's unconstitutional stuff. I think that's a step in the right direction. I mean, I'm one of those guys that I'll take what I can get, but let's not lose sight of the big picture sometimes. And I feel like maybe this is a small step in the right direction. Um, some of the things that you guys do a great job of putting the alerts out too, Eric.
Thank
One of
you.
the things y'all did that I thought was really smart is that when the initial alert went out a couple of weeks ago, it was a lot of information. And I think in general, I think the average person, especially when they don't feel like the administration is coming after them with anti-gun laws, I think they tend to get a little complacent. And I felt like a lot of the information that went out, we appreciated it, but you guys did a really smart thing this week. Y'all condensed this down to three topics that were the more sought after topics within the gun community.
So I think, there's so many things. I mean, we could come up with 2 or 3 dozen things that he can do unilaterally. But we tried to pick the top three that are just the most important, the most impactful for the long term. One would be abolishing the ATF gun registry. I mean, obviously, we want to abolish the ATF. I don't think there's the stomach for that right now in DC. So, but there's actually a lot of momentum building for abolishing the ATF gun registry, going after all of Biden's executive actions, but specifically reversing the frame and receiver rule. And we can talk about why that one is especially important to target first. And then the third of the items really is just holding ATF and FBI officials accountable for past violations of Second Amendment rights. And, Paul, you just did an episode on how the ATF was running guns into Mexico back in the day under the Obama administration, right? And I mean, were there consequences on that? I mean, not really, right? I mean, so many violations of our rights, there haven't been consequences. And so the alert we're talking about, we provide a real easy action item with a couple clicks of your mouse. You can send an alert off. And so if you go to gunowners.org/pro-gun actions, you'll get those three primary pro-gun actions that the president can take, and you can send that in an email. You can edit the email. It's always editable on our website, but we've made it easy so you can just send it off. So gunowners.org/pro-gun actions. That's your ability to easily and quickly send off this alert. Anyway, we can start talking about each one of these.
By the way, I'll post that link down below too, by the way.
Fantastic.
I'll put it in the description so it's easier for people to follow.
So why don't we take the last one first? It's obviously super important that we hold rogue ATF and FBI officials accountable. I mean, first of all, let's just acknowledge they have murdered law-abiding Americans. Brian Malinowski, right, in Arkansas. There was the Waco and Ruby Ridge debacles. No criminal punishments in any of those cases.
In fact, Marvin Richardson actually got an award for Waco, which is really special.
Yeah. That's one way to describe it. Special.
Yeah.
So there's the people that have just been out and out murdered. And then there's the gun owners that, even though they weren't killed, they were scared nearly to death with early morning raids. And Paul, you might remember the Canes in Wyoming. It was an early morning raid a little over a year ago. ATF barges into their home in full body armor, guns pointed, tons of red dots focused on Randy. The ATF handcuffs him, drags him and Noreen, that's his partner he's living with, out of the house in their underwear in freezing weather. ATF ransacks the home, breaks several items, uses the jaws of life. The thing you use to get into cars,
right.
When they're stuck on the railroad tracks or about to burst into fire. They use that to cut open his safe. How about just asking for the password, right? So now his safe was totally ruined. All of this because of a drug conviction from over 20 years ago, but they ignored the fact that the state of Wyoming had restored his gun rights. I mean, Paul, you would think that the Biden administration and Democrats would have been okay with restoring rights for drug convictions, right? But you'd be wrong, because not when it comes to gun rights. They don't want to restore those rights. So, but, isn't that just the ATF way? I mean, they could have served the search warrant like normal cops should do, but no, they prefer to go in guns a-blazing in early morning raids. I mean, that's what got Brian Malinowski killed. Paul, with Randy's body covered with red dots. I mean, what do you think would have happened if he had a weapon in his hand?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
like
totally.
Most people, I mean, and you and I are the kind of people that, I've said this in videos before, I will definitely perish in my own home if that day ever comes, because I've done nothing wrong. I've broken no laws. If somebody kicks my door in at 2 a.m., they're not supposed to be there. So I will be shooting at them. I won't be requesting identification at that point. What are they going to do? They're going to Brian Malinowski me. That's what I fear. And I honestly fear that. And that's why, and I know this is a tangent we can always talk about another time, that's why red flag gun laws scare me so much.
Yes.
Because that's the kind of stuff that you and I, it's an acceptable way to get rid of law-abiding Americans who are just honest gun owners who get up and go to work every single day. So yeah, that's my biggest fear. I don't mind telling you that. That is somebody coming to my house, because I'm not going to ask who they are. They don't belong there. I'm not expecting anybody.
It's sad that Malinowski has become a verb. You just made it a verb there. The ATF will Malinowski you.
That's right.
Yeah, well said. So one of the three prongs, one of the three pitches we're making here last minute to the White House: agents need to be held accountable for the destruction that they've led in their wake. Pam Bondi's gotten a good first start. She fired Pamela Hicks, chief counsel of the ATF. She was behind Biden's anti-gun executive actions, but there needs to be a lot more agents held accountable. And so anyway, that's the first one. Another one that's really important, we kind of teased this earlier, and that is reversing the frame and receiver rule. Now, this is the one that prevents you from buying an 80% receiver without a background check. And of course, you used to be able to do that before the Biden administration. You could purchase an 80% receiver, make your gun at home. And of course, the Biden administration changed all that, and they, now you have to go through a background check to purchase those. Well, there's lots of other executive actions taken by the Biden administration. Of course, there's the pistol brace firearms ban, up to about 40 million firearms covered. There's the engaged in the business rule, which imposes universal background checks. GOA has challenged both of those, and actually very successfully. We got preliminary injunctions on both of those. So why, put to the top of the line the frame and receiver rule? Well, the reason is this: the fact that we are winning on the other rules, on the other cases in the federal courts, is a good sign. We think that we can kill those gun restrictions for all time in the courts. But, Paul, you'll remember when the Supreme Court oral arguments on the frame and receiver rule were held in October. That's the Vanderstock case. It didn't really go well as far as listening to the justices. And, everybody on our side thinks the Supreme Court's probably not going to give us a really good decision. And they're probably going to come down on the side of some gun control. So we really want to nip this in the bud, moot the case. And the way to do that, the president can do that unilaterally with executive action. He can just simply reverse the rule. And, you might remember what some of the other significant parts to this rule are. That was there is a universal gun owner registration aspect to it. You might remember with that Biden rule on the frame and receivers, it also overrode what dealers used to be able to do. After 20 years, they could trash 4473 forms. They could destroy them. The Biden rule, this frame and receiver rule, says, nope, you can't do that anymore. And sadly, the Vanderstock case, that challenge didn't challenge that registration aspect. Now, we have a separate court case in North Dakota where we're challenging this rule, and it does actually go after the gun owner registration part of it. But our case is not the one that's before the Supreme Court. So, regardless of what the Supreme Court does on frame and receivers, let's say in Vanderstock, they surprise us and they rule favorably in our direction on frame and receivers. The registration aspect stays untouched, where dealers are no longer, they're required now by that rule to hold on to 4473 forms forever. And then when they go out of business, they have to send them into the ATF. We've got to get rid of that. And that's why it's really, really important. In fact, that may be even the most important reason with this rule, why the president needs to reverse this rule. I mean, we want to shut down all of Biden's gun controls, but for this one, the clock is ticking. I mean, Paul, when would you suspect that the Vanderstock case gets handed down by the Supreme Court? They heard it last October. I mean, what are you thinking, like June? Right. So we're just looking at a few months here before the Supreme Court makes a decision. So we really want to be able to moot that case.
Well, and I guess going into that third issue of the illegal gun registration, I've always had this. I think my mind is too simple. There's no way I could be an attorney. My mind just looks at things way too simple. I don't understand the concept, and I know what's going on. I mean, I'm not that naive, but I don't understand the concept of passing a law to prevent someone from breaking the law that they're breaking. I never understood that. I mean, and the fact that we have to request the president to look into the ATF stopping what they're doing illegally. We already have a law in place. And the fact that we have to beg for that is so frustrating to me. It's like you always wonder, when we break the law, there's somebody, whether it's a sheriff or whether it's attorney general, or there's a body out there that polices, and I don't mean the word in that term, but somebody is policing those laws. When they break the law, who do we call? I mean, it's like there's no repercussion whenever they break the law. So that's why I think gun owners in general sometimes fall silent when it comes to these call to action that we have, because they feel like there's never any teeth. There's never anything that no one pays the price. Like you mentioned, the accountability of the ATF officers.
Yes.
If we don't see some accountability, I believe the gun community, the Second Amendment advocates out there, the everyday guy that's just hoping that we can do something to move the needle on advocacy, I think they lose confidence in the system altogether if there's not some kind of accountability that's done.
So absolutely, totally agree. And that's why accountability, enforcing accountability is one of these three tenets. And really what you're saying leads to the last point, which is probably the most important. And that is not just saying, hey, ATF, stop registering, but actually abolishing the
Right.
ATF gun registry. And that's really the most important of all the three pitches that we're making here at the last minute, that the president can do without the help of Congress. You know, we know how bad the problem is. It all started under the Biden administration when GOA publicized a leaked ATF document. It showed over 50 million records had been digitized in 1 year. Representative Cloud of Texas heard about that. And so, with several other congressmen, he issued a Freedom of Information Act request and got back like it was mind blowing.
900 and something million.
Yes, that were digitized,
Right.
and almost a billion
Yep.
gun records in their possession. That by now it's probably over a billion.
Oh yeah.
We did a subsequent Freedom of Information Act, found that the digitized names, or not names, but the digitized records, not surprisingly, are searchable.
Right.
So, you know, and here's the interesting thing. ATF told Representative Cloud in his Freedom of Information Act request that that registry was not useful for solving crimes. So that really just leaves you with one thing that the registry is useful for, right? And we all know that's confiscation. And that's why we absolutely must abolish the ATF gun registry. So, you know, again, the URL for sending off the message with these 3 points, including the most important, abolishing the ATF registry, go to gunowners.org/pro-gun actions. And again, you can just do that a couple seconds on your with your mouse or your keypad, and you can send that message off. That is really important. We have killed so much gun control in the past by mobilizing grassroots pressure. We've gotten good legislation passed that never would have passed except that you know, just the grassroots rising up. So really, you know, you may feel like, oh, what good is this going to do? And honestly, if it was just you, like maybe responding to something in the news and it was just you sending one letter, that might be like a little pebble in the ocean. But when there's tens of thousands of people joining you, that actually does send a message. And that's why this has been so successful in past years.
Well, we're certainly going to push it on our end. I think that it's important that we really let people know how important this is to actually take part in. One thing that I wanted to mention, kind of a lot of the energy in the air is certainly centered around Trump, Elon Musk, and Doge right now.
Right.
I did a video a couple of weeks ago that it's interesting to me how much waste, fraud, and abuse we can find. And it's a beautiful thing, the fact that these databases are accessible from the general public and all that. And one of the things that I found, I went back and looked at the 2024 and 2025 budgets of the ATF, linking them to the FBI also. And I found it extremely interesting to me regarding the Malinowski case, where they claimed they didn't have body worn cameras when they put the tape over the doorbell and then shot him in the head. They are requesting $38 million for body worn cameras to update their system, server use, and all that. I went back and looked, and the FBI currently already has an existing system. And I've had IT people reach out to me and say, most of this stuff is via the cloud now. It's not like they're stacking servers that they need to put at the ATF headquarters. And a lot of ATF guys, like many of them have confirmed each other's comments on this, reaching out to me on this. And they're like, this is literally a half a day project to add all this additional server space. The ATF does not need $38 million for this. Plus, it's a duplicate system that the FBI easily could expand on. Again, with a matter of adding different account numbers to it. Like we want to add, I don't know, 2,000 accounts to this existing cloud server space. Okay, cool. Got you. It'll be ready in 5 minutes whenever we activate this. But the craziest thing was about the wasteful spending. And this is the thing that I can't wait till they start looking deeper into the DOJ, FBI, and ATF as far as the Doge guys, is that I found that even though they were asking for $40 million worth of money for the body worn cameras, the FBI, DOJ, they were giving grants out from the DOJ for over $80 million worth of body worn cameras. So if you want to look at waste and spending, and you and I can't run our houses like this.
No.
I can't sit here and ask for a $40 million loan and I'm giving away $80 million. Why wouldn't I? And this is a crazy idea. Why wouldn't I only give away $40 million worth of body worn camera grants and just keep the other 40 million to fulfill my own instead of asking Congress for 40 million more dollars? You can't police this and manage this on your own. And that's the kind of stuff that I think we get frustrated that we see,
Yeah.
because we're like, this is a no-brainer. How come nobody is doing anything about this? So
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I don't know what you're hearing over there, closer to the Capitol where you guys are, but I hope that they're going to zero in on these guys. I know it's not a big enough ticket item like the DOD and probably the Department of Education, but are you hearing anything that they're going to look into some of these agencies that we're so worried about the misuse and the abuse as far as going after people like you and I, as far as gun owners?
Well, I know they're definitely going to get looked at, and we've been asked for our recommendations. And you're
Good.
absolutely right that there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, all they have to do is go back to some of the Inspector General reports from years past showing
Yeah.
that they've been paying themselves illegally excessive amounts, and that they've, stealing firearms for their own personal use. And, not to mention some of the things that we've documented through our Freedom of Information Act requests, things that they're spending money on that they never should be spending money on, like, spying on gun owners through pro-gun message boards, or, that's the ATF. And of course, the FBI was also spying on gun owners who had committed no crimes. Interestingly, most of the people the FBI was spying on were people like Black women who were purchasing guns, or people who didn't make a lot of money in a recent quarter, but then spent money on guns. And they're like, hey, that's suspicious activity. So even though they had no criminal record, we're going to monitor and track you. And of course, then you've got ATF also instituting a facial recognition technology, which of course just buttresses their registry that they have. So all these abuses, these are some of these things we've documented in our Minuteman moments, which are on our YouTube page, but all kinds of, not only wasteful spending, but really things that should be illegal spending under the Second Amendment, which says shall not be infringed. And so anyway, all to close the loop, yeah, we've been asked for our recommendations. We have given them probably more recommendations that they know what to do with. But again, I am heartened by the fact that this executive order came early, and the fact that already heads have started rolling, like that chief counsel of the ATF. That sends a good sign. So I'm willing to say, all right, let's see what they're going to do. Let's give them a chance, and let's work with them and keep encouraging them. And when they're doing the right thing, it's kind of like with a child, right? When they do something good, you say, hey, great job, and you reward it. On the other hand, if they don't, well, that's when you discipline. So we're not there yet. So I like what I've seen so far.
One final thing, Eric, as far as the White House goes and the current condition of the White House, regarding being a lot more transparent, a little bit more open, especially that we have somebody who can be there and actually work during the day. What are you hearing? And of course, obviously, you know the answer to this, but knowing that the anti-gun organizations had a voice in the White House before, direct contact with the White House before. I know that when gun laws were being discussed, there were people literally and physically in the White House discussing with the staff how to write the bill. What are you hearing and what are you seeing? And is it something you can actually discuss as far as the pro-gun movement actually having some kind of a presence in the White House, or at least a contact that is I guess, happy with us and, encouraging to us and carrying our message to the president?
Well, certainly we already have clear lines of communication with them. So that's a plus. Obviously, we didn't have that the last 4 years. And honestly, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So we do have that. Now, what you're talking about, they've gotten rid of the Office of Gun Violence, or whatever that was called. I believe that's one of the things that they're considering right now is, do they replace that with something, akin to a, office of protecting gun rights or something
Hmm.
like that,
Hmm.
or just some office that's dedicated to go after violence, but not per se gun violence, because
Right.
guns don't commit violence.
That's
Just
correct.
like you don't have car violence or hammer violence, you have people violence, and they use different tools. I mean, we all know this, right?
Yeah. What a
So
novel idea to go after just violence in
just
general.
exactly. So I think that's one of the things that we'll see come March 9th or 10th or whenever they issue the report, to
Hmm.
see, are they going to have an official office like that? If they do, I think that would be very helpful, because you're right. Just, they need help in, helping write legislation or executive actions or things like that. And having a good team in there could be a real plus.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, look, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Glad you're here. We could talk forever. Hope to see you in Iowa. Are you going to GunCon this year?
Yes, although not Iowa this year.
Oh, that's right, Cleveland.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
Cleveland. I forgot about that. That's right. Well, good. I'm glad you guys are going to be there. It's probably the next chance I'll get to see. I don't know if I'm going to go to Atlanta this year for NRA, but I mean, it's always good to see you guys. We're going to post a lot of this information, how to contact, and I know that you guys provided several different ways. Not only the link, but you also have a phone number down there. Will the phone number, the 202 area code, where does that go to?
That goes to Washington. So there's the 202-224-3121. That's for Congress.
Okay.
And then I'm going off memory, but I think I mean, you can Google the White House, but I think it's 202-456-1111.
That's the one that you guys have posted in the alert. So
Okay,
I'm going to
great.
put that down as well too. Do you know if that White House switchboard is it always open? Like, so this will actually air on Friday. You and I are recording this on Thursday. Is Saturday and Sunday a wasted effort to be able to access
No,
that?
no, it's not. It will either be manned, or that they'll have a recording where you can leave a message,
Okay.
and then they'll listen to it. And the other thing I would add is they're also watching Twitter comments, and we've been able to actually get their attention on
Okay.
Twitter with certain things. So if at either Elon Musk or POTUS, stands for President of the United States, that's another way to get our ideas in front of them. So
Okay.
hitting Elon Musk, and especially as it relates to Doge related items, or just some of these general specific asks that we've been talking about directed to POTUS,
Okay.
that will get noticed.
Okay. Well, we're going to share all that in the description down below. Again, Eric, as always, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy. I appreciate you spending the time with us. And let's see if we can't bump the needle a little bit on this effort and get Pam Bondi's attention on this.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you so much. I'd love to come back anytime. It's been great hanging out with you today. And yeah, folks, for all who are listening, please take action. I promise you, it makes a huge difference. So thank you.
One final thing, and I think this is the time to drop this, is that GOA is going to be working with me every other Friday on an update on the Second Amendment, what's happening out there, things that are kind of condense the 2A news into a spot with Ben. So your own Ben Sanderson is going to be getting with me on Fridays.
Fantastic. And one other thing, and this, if you could also drop a link for this, Paul. If people aren't getting our email alerts, it's easy to do. Go to gunowners.org/subscribe, and they're free, but that will keep you in the know with things that need action.
Mhm.
And again, taking action with a concerted effort with tens of thousands of other people makes a huge difference.
We'll include that as well. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.